Sports editor Mike Bako from the dailynational.com joins us now. Great to have you on the program.
Thanks.
Firstly, the name on everyone's lips, Caitlyn Clark. She beat the men and women's record for shooting this year. That's a first. What does this mean for the game?
It means everything for the game. Listen to these stats. 14 million people watched her game last night against UConn. That was an all-time record. That outrated every NBA Finals game, every World Series game, almost every NCAA college football playoff game, as well as the Masters, Daytona 500, any other sporting event that you could think of. It doubled the audience of the previous game, unbeaten University of South Carolina against NC State. So you could just see it there, not only in the jam-packed stadiums, the cultural phenomenon, but in the actual numbers of eyeballs that are watching. It's like unlike anything we've ever seen.
So in that case, if viewership is up in these numbers that you're talking about, why then is women's basketball not prime time when the men's is?
Well, it's historical to a certain degree, as well as just kind of riding this wave of Caitlyn Clark. Yeah, as I mentioned, the audience numbers were very well received for the earlier game, but not quite what she is at. What the women's game needs is more Caitlyn Clarks. Maybe this is motivating more people to play basketball at a competitive level. They need many years, many tournaments past Caitlyn Clark. This will probably be her final tournament, obviously. So let's see what happens past this. Obviously, this is a phenomenon. She's going to play for the national championship. There's going to be record ratings. It's going to be interesting to see whether her women's game outpaces and outrates the men's game this year.
So, but what that boils down to, I imagine, is money and advertising. And is it the reason why the men's game is in prime time is because it has the commercials, the advertising needed?
Absolutely. I mean, billions of dollars when it comes to women's TV rights, whether it's in the WNBA versus the NBA, women's college basketball versus men's college basketball. And even when you look at the World Cup ratings and how much the teams make men versus women, it's just completely a traditional, historical, hierarchical sort of means where the men's game just have so much more money and so much more advertisers that are in it.
AKA sexism, but we'll move on. Sorry. In a women's game in Portland, the court was not the same at either end. So this is another example, perhaps, you know, where or how the women's game is perceived. Is there a more lax attitude when it comes to the women's game?
Well, when you think about that event, on either side of the court should be the same three-point line. It was not. They were painted incorrectly. If you look at the sort of standards of recent NCAA women's facilities, there were some shots from a year or two ago where the gym was a couple of dumbbells and a couple of water bottles, whereas the men's game had state-of-the-art, basketball courts and training facilities. So there is a complete lack of sort of commensurate standards with the men's game. As they're trying to expand, hopefully we'll see that. But again, that could have been at a men's game. I don't think they had a lesser maintenance crew painting down the court. I think it was just the facility that did that. I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with the women's game, but you could sure bet that would not have happened at a men's game.
For the international people among us living outside of the US, it's sometimes hard to understand why college sports is such a big deal here. Can you just talk a little bit from an international perspective, like why college sport is so huge, in particular basketball?
Yeah, it's the bonds that you make when you're playing and when you're watching and when you go to your school. So you cannot watch, any games the entire year, and then you wake up and you see your team, Purdue, Alabama, NC State is in the Final Four. You call your friends that you went to school with. You go to a bar, you watch. There's betting involved. The NCAA pool has been a historical thing where on Thursdays and Fridays, work stops around the country. I don't know how many billions of dollars they think kind of goes out the window in work productivity. So again, it's just one of those things that's been woven into our fabric, even more so now with college football kind of taking over as our second great sport in the U.S. right behind NFL football. So come March, they have a saying, March Madness. It's when you watch your teams. It's when you watch your school that you went to. You root for your team. You root against the team that your school was rivals for. So for this March period of time, it kind of takes over a lot of the social aspects of American society as well as the sporting world.
Mike Bako, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.